Coffray? Well, it's parish of Shap. Shap's famous for three main things: for the road, the railway, and granite. And if you believe it, this map, if you look, it shows London, Edinburgh and Glasgow, and Shap. And it was supposed to be famous for fresh air, hasn't it, to show these days, with that much industry about. It's a terrible old spotty Shap. Yansour it was called Hep. Now that's supposed to go for the word heap, for a good heap of stains. And this is what's left of Janet Stien circles at south end of the village. It was cut through with the railway, and they called that Stien circle Hepshaw. Shap Circle was supposed to be somewhat about as big as Yan down at Avebury, with avenues and circles. And that low circle at bottom is Yan you've just seen, what was left on it. And there was a good big one round about where Greyhound was. And in the middle there was a good big stone. Now we tells that stone in the middle was cut up into 7 pairs of yacht stoops. So it mun have been a gay big stone to do that. And that circle was supposed to be 400 feet across. But there's naught left on it now. But there's a few stones for that avenue that's running out at top, out north. This is a picture Lady Lowther painted in about 1770. Now, she shows some stones that look more like limestone than aught else, but they're nearly all granited stones in our circles and avenues. But it's Laken North is this, and what Ted says was a Shap is that few houses up on top of the hill there. And this is Summit Stones out north end. Now Barnkeld has got a flat top, you can get onto it. And they used to say village fife and drum band used to march round it, and drummer used to stand on top. But that's called Barnkeld. And then there's Guggleby. Now you'll see that marked on Ordnance Survey maps, and it's sometimes called Goggleby. Now at Dummelauer in 1969, and Lancaster University put it up again. And then next field till it, there's this Asperstian. Now it's as big as Guggleby, but it's all cowed out to your side. And Avenue ends up with Skeller Hill. If you know what you're looking for, it's in that bit behind Asperstian, and it was a barrow. It was a burial mound. But there's not a good lot to see these days. In 1984, they put gas pipeline through, and they take it through on a bit of low ground just below Pink Quarry as you go towards Kendal. And when they were howking in, they found this old boat, and they said it was prehistoric. But we don't know where it was taken till. Nobody seems to ken where it is these days, but we did get some pictures on it. But that spot where they found it had been a shallow lake, Yansour, Langsen. Now, the Romans did come, but they didn't come into Shap. I wonder why, I don't know. But any road, they built one of the highest roads, our High Street, and that was between Galava Fort at Ambleside and Brookhaven at Broome, aside Peirath. And it went on to fells up beyond Haweswater. When they were building some new houses in 2000, they had to do an archaeological dig before they did they built houses, and they found what was left of a Dark Age house dating from 7th or 8th century. All you can see on there is just post holes, because that was likely all that was left. This is an old map. This is called Bodleian map, a Goth map. And it's a whole of Britain, but it's set out different to maps we can today, with east at top. And if you look at this, if you look in middle there, you've got Wenandenmere. That's the only lake that's marked, and that wiggly line's supposed to be fells. But if you look at all them rivers as they're coming down, they're all in right order. You've got Desk and Dudden, Leven, Kent and Lune. And if you go up, you've got Kirby Kendall, and then there's a road going through, and you can see Shap. And with Shap, there's a loud building with a tower. Now, that's supposed to be Shap Abbey, because it spots where there was abbeys and priories. And then up on left-hand side, up at top, that line with all loud checks in it, that's the Roman War. And then you see Solway coming up, and you can see Forest at Inglewood. But down at bottom, you can see Insula de Man, and bottom right, you've got Beaumaris, you've got Anglesey shown on it. So it's a little bit out of right, but in main, it's a reasonable indication of what there was. Premonstratensian canons. Well, they founded an abbey at Preston, near Kendal, but whether they were our near flesh pots of Kendal, I didn't know. But, however, in 1199, abbey was moved to the spot aside River Lowther, and benefactor, where granted lands, was Thomas Gospatrick, and abbey was dedicated to St Mary Magdalene. And that's a drawing of abbey in ruins. Now, this is supposed to be how abbey used to look about 1500, and it was painted by a chap fra Celd called Eric Tapsell. Abbey was rich. It had a good sheep farm and exported wool. Yarbert was called Richard Redman, and he come for 11s. He went on to be Bishop of St Asaph, Exeter and Ely, but he still kept his title of Abbot of Shap. And he was an important fellow in the order. He used to gang overseas, gang abroad on official business. Canons were priests, and they looked after churches at spots like Shap and Bampton, while Abbey was on go, and Walkup and all. And they had a leper hospital near Appleby. There was a number of lay brothers and all that just did manual work that weren't actually part of the order. And this is a picture maybe taken in about 1930s, and it shows what Abbey was like before they did all the work on it. And you can see all trees growing out at top and everything all liggen over with grass and such like. Now about 1950 yarn, Ministry of Works took it over and they did a lot of work on it, and they cleared it and made it safe, and then they opened it to public properly. But I can remember farmer keeping a plough underneath the arch, under the tower. This is yarn taken from up Björn, and you can see Ligo or what's there. And farms there, just to right at tower, and that's supposed to be built on where Abbott's lodging was. And until we changed our counties, Shap Abbey Farm, it was the biggest sheep farm in Westmoreland. And same family have farmed it for, it's now 4 generations in farming it now. Just up back, there's a little spot called Kelp, and it's a Scandinavian name, it means a spring, and there's a spring in a hint chapel, and it never dries up even in a real hot summer. This is the River Lowther again. And fra here, there was water taken off until a race to go down to Runt Abbey Mill. And that's Kelt Chapel. Now, this had a lot to do with Abbey. It dates from the 16th century. It's not but a mile up back for Abbey. And when they were building the railway, there was some navvies lived in there. And now it belongs to the National Trust. And there's a few services held there every year. We generally have yarn in summer, and we have yarn that's candlelit just before Christmas. Market Cross, just across the road there. Now, it's built out of stone for Abbey, and it dates from 1687, because that's when Philip, Lord Wharton, who was Lord at Manor at the time, granted a market charter. And yon arches used to be open, and it was like a market cross, and they used to set up stores inside. And now it's been a dame school, it's been a library, parish rooms, and now it belongs to the History Society, and we have exhibitions in there. And as parish clerks, and my office is in there and all. So I spent rather a lot of time in that little building. Just down from where you are now, the opposite side to Market Cross, was called Moot Hall. Now it was a bit like buildings that you see in spots like Keswick and Appleburn, with shops underneath and a council chamber out at top. Now that was turned down, and Lads Grammar School was built in 1838 on the same spot. But that fancy door that you can see up them steps is still there on front at school. It was a gay busy spot with the road and everything, and there was all this folk travelling through, pack horses and drovers and such like. But on 21st of November 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie with his Jacobites went through Shap on the way to Derby. And on 17th of December, when they were all running back to Scotland, Prince stopped in that house on the left. And they call it Stewart House now. And his household book records, at Shap, Tuesday, to ale, wine and other provisions, £4 17 shillings. Note, the landlady a sad wife for imposing. So it must have been a gay lot of brass for them. Now, the following day, 7 mile down the road, they caught at Clifton, and they had a bit of a skirmish with Duke of Cumberland's army on Clifton Moor. And that was the last battle on English soil. The memorials at Clifton to mark where they buried both Scots and English. They put English in churchyard, and they put Scots under a yak tree at this end of Clifton. They called it Rebel Yak. Because it was a busy road, there was a lot of coaching-ins. And these are 3 that's still about. Queen's Head's shut, but King's Arms and Ground are still hostelries, as you might say. They still provide accommodation and grub and something to drink. And then we got Heronside Turnpike, 1825. These cast mileposts that were cast at Gatebeck. This one was all painted up, smartened up and put back. Bit Milestone Society, just a couple of years back, up about Granite. And it wasn't there very long after. Somebody pinched it. And they made Seca Hawk inside. There was rub all this soil out to get it out. But terrible sad to lose that. And this was called Tollbar. Now that was on south end of Shap. It was just aside where you used to go on the road for Orton. And it's where you go out for the motorway now. And after it was a tall house, it was where a gamekeeper for Lowther Estates lived there latterly. But I can remember them pulling it down in middle 1950s, I think, because they were wanting to widen the road a bit. And this is the road out of Shap. Gone down hooks into the bottom. On this section, originally it was not but 28 foot wide, and there was a gay few things went out into the bottom, and there was a gay few folk killed. And this is another landmark on Old A6, Leyland Clock, and that was atween bottom of Hooks and Jungle Cafe, and they took that away and they took it down to Kendal, to the Brewery Arts Centre. Now it's there in Gruns, and they've spent every second lot of brass trying to get it working. But last time I went, it had Yas time at Yas side, and different Yan and to them. And next time I went, it was exactly the same. So it's not working after all their efforts. And Lenore, that used to wind it up when it was here for a few coppers a year, she said, well, I could get it gone. It not but wants a few pennies on to balance it. But health and safety won't allow her to do it. I ask you. This was a spot that everybody can remember. It was Jungle Cafe. It's where they've got Kendal caravans now, but the original buildings are still there. But it was a spot where drivers could get a rest and some tea and a warm up. Because there was no heating in cabs years back, like. And that was the spot. He was a bit notorious for other reasons and all, but I'm not going to that. Jan Sauer, if you said to folk you were for a Shap, they'd say, oh aye, that spot that gets blocked with snow in winter. There's less folk remember that now, but anyway, it wasn't a good spot to be in bad weather, with blizzards and drifting. This is when the road was a lot narrower like, and you can see how stuff stuck. Look at this. You used to get stuff stuck on Demings, where it's a slow climb up for Pink Quarry, and stuff used to get jackknifed and then now could get past, and then it drifted up onto it. But it wasn't a good spot to be. And St M6 opened. Of course, winters haven't been as bad, and we hardly ever see out like this now. But can any on you mind this old cafe on top of Shap? It was made out of 12 old buses back to back. And in 1960s they built a new cafe on the opposite side of the road, but there's nought left now. Not even that lifeline telephone box. There used to be a telephone box on top of Shap, and even that's gone now. Yeah, Blake that day. But it was a lady from the village that used to run it. She's still alive, still lives in the village. And this is what used to happen down in the village. You used to get everything backed up, right through the village, up north end of the village. And if you look, it says School and Memorial Hall, that's where you are now. And then north end of the village. And they used to open this hall. We had a WVS then, and women used to make soup and such like, and some drivers used to be able to desk down and have a sleep in here overnight. But when I was at grammar school, it was grand because the bus couldn't get through and you couldn't get to school. And you had a few days off. We don't see that now. And in fact, you don't get heavy stuff coming through the village the same. If you do get a lot of traffic through, you know there's been something happened on the motorway and they're sending stuff off. But we had a grand time when there was snow, laking in it. That's me with my pixie hat on. They were gay fashionable back then, like. But you see how it snow's clagging on trees and that. On the 18th of July, 1844, they started work building Lancaster to Carlisle Railway, and they cut first sod on Shap Fell. Joseph Locke didn't like tunnels, and he decided to tack line up an hour Shap. They laughed at him, but he stood by his decision, and Thomas Brassey was the contractor, and now he had a good relationship with his workmen, and navvies respected him, and he treated them well. He sorted out quarrels, seekers keeping Scotch and Irish and English separate. And he paid a fair wage for hard work. And he provided good accommodation for them, seekers this village that he built up on summit. And the village had a school and a chapel. And some of the sod huts were still being occupied by men working at granite when census was taken in 1901. So that lasted longer than they expected. Building at Lancaster and Carlisle Railway was a great feat, really, for engineering. From start to opening, it took rather less than 2.5 years to build 70 mile of railway, with use of manpower, picks and shovels, some explosives, and horses and carts. Cost was £1,200,000. Dale Main was the first locomotive used to pull director's train on the opening day. That was 15th of December 1846. She was called after Dale Main, the armoured chairman at directors Edward Hazel. Sisterhood Guard sits on top of the front carriage in hot weather, rather like old stagecoaches really. And it was recorded that on opening day it was very cold but bright, with big icicles hanging from rocks in cuttings and snow on felltops. Now, during construction, quite a few fellas were killed, and they're commemorated with a stone in Kirkyard here at Shap. And that's the verse. Sacred to memory of workmen who lost their lives by accidents during the progress of the work on the Shap district of the Lancaster and Carlisle Railway, and whose names are to be found in the parish register books. Like crowded forest trees we stand, and some are marked to fall. The axe will smite at God's command, and soon shall smite us all. No present health can life ensure, yet an hour to come. No human power our life secure, and save us from the tomb. That was erected in September of 1846, so shortly before the opening in actual fact. And this is the sort of view we used to get. A goods train coming up Shap Bank with a banking engine giving it a shove. Banking engines were down at Tiber, and they used to shove them up till they got to the summit, and then they used to go back down to Tiber. This is Royal Scot. Royal Scot used to come our Shap summit every day. And there's a story about there was midday Scot and Royal Scot, and there was a local farmer and he had a lad walking with him, and he'd say, "Come on," he says, "let's go and watch Scot going to London." So they went near the lake. And then after a bit he says, "Come on, we'll go and see Scot going back for London." And it was not but about 2 hours. And the lad said, "By gum, the big air Sharp gone to London and back." But actually, there were 2 different trains, and they used to cross somewhere down Midlands there. And that fella standing on the lines is George Grayland, and he was signalman at Shap Summit signal box for our 40 year, and that's a picture of him in signal box. He was Gailey Whale Kent fellow was George. And this is the last official steam run, 1968, and it had name Moorlands, but the engine, if you like, is Fower 72. And anybody that knows out about railway engines will know that that's Flying Scotsman. And Shap had a station, that shut in 1968. It had main buildings were on northbound side, and there was a signal box, and there was 2 water towers on either side, and you had to gang over a bridge to get onto the southbound, and there was a Lal Beach shelter. You can just see it on bottom picture on left-hand side in middle, the Lal shelter. And this is last staff. There was Jim Mason and Jackie Howe and Billy Birdall. Jim Mason's still alive, is not so well, but he's still alive. And of course, Shap Wells Hotel, you can see a train going back there. Now that started to get rather popular in Victorian times as a health resort, because there was medicinal waters, described as smelling like rotten eggs and train smear. Top picture, you can see steam engine going up Shap Bank. And during the Second World War, it was a prisoner of war camp for German officers. And there was a gay few fellas, British soldiers, come to guard them, and married lasses for a Shap, and stopped around. Still a hotel, quite well kent. But what you maybe didn't ken was that they'd one of the highest golf courses in England. Not but a 9-course yon, but there you see, you can have a day for 2 and 6, 7 and 6 for a week. There you are. Soon after railway opened, Shap Granite Company was set up. Now, it was a fella from Dalbeatty called Mr. Curtis, because if anybody kens out about Dalbeatty, he'll know they used to quarry granite up there. And he fetched a lot of Scots workers down to Shap, because they already kent how to handle granite, so he fetched them down. And it was set up in 1864. And it jerked pink granite out of Wasdell Crag. And it expanded to include concrete works, and another quarry, taken blue rag, it's at Borradle Volcanics, out to the side of the road for it works. But that's a list of some of the stuff that they used to produce. And that's granite I was talking about. That's dark on the left and light on the right. And it went all our country. It's a bonny stone for ornamental work. You'll find it on a lot of important buildings all over, like town halls and banks and such like. And if you get to London, to St Paul's, and you see all them bollards round St Paul's, the dark Shap. Basil Jett chose it over other granite for when he did the sewage and water work down in London for government. But it's made up of mica and quartz with good big bits of feldspar. My mother used to say it looked like a good dish of potted meat. And this was early quarrying, picks and shovel job there. But works were gaily big, there you can see. Roads on right, running down diagonally on right, and railways right in front here. But you can see odd works, and there was a gay lot of houses up in there. Some of them I won't say good houses like, but there was quite a lot of folk lived actually up in works. And this is Scale Law went till, Wickersgill Scale. It's been turned into a house now, but Barnsford Granite and other spots round about used to go, and through up Sleddle and such like. And this is the earliest picture we ever workers, and I not but have your name. And that's a chap called James Rawlinson, and he's on about third row back, 3 in, and he's got a grey beard. But he's done in McCann. But some of them must have been out at office because they've gotten watch chains and all toughed up like. So it looks like some of them are office folk or managers and such like. And that's one of the earliest types of paving flag they made. And that Shap is brass and it's set into the flag. That's one I've got in my garden. My lad calls it Shap steps because I've got them set as steps in garden. Now, during Second World War, Shap Granite fetched workers from Alderney to Shap during the occupation, and some of them wedded local folk and stopped, but some of them did go back. But they had some quarries on Alderney that belonged to Shap Granite, and so they fetched some of the workforce to Shap. But the other thing they did was they cast concrete sections for Mulberry Harbour, and they were taken on wagons down to Barra. Nobody had kent what they were for at the time, like, because I asked somebody and they said, we were making these things, they were going on a wagon, but we didn't know what they were, not till long after. But this was one of their special flags that they used to make with rubber threads set in them. But there was a special mould they used to set rubber in, and then they used to put concrete in. And they were good for on brand spots when it was slate-like, give you a bit grip. And they sent them to spots like Bermuda because there were high rainfall and a lot of hills. And this is after one at blasts. And my godfather's on front, on the left, and he's a fellow that come for a thrall called Donald Angus, and he was called Alan Stewart. And he come for a thrall to Shap. He was a quarryman before he come. But, and someone yell, Kent feller in middle, took a Allison. Anybody that used to go hunting will ken him. But there's a gay few folk on there. And H.B. Fleming manages the feller in flat cap next to Alan, underneath where it says Shap in. And this was a good big blast there in 1952. And it went wrong in somewhere, because they used to stop our traffic on the road like. And this and that wasn't far enough away. It was half a mile away, but you still got a good big cobble go through the windscreen. Might have been inflate them. You see Bobby's there having a talk to them and that. But they used to stop our traffic on the road like when they were having one of these blasts. Aye. And then, of course, some of it come down onto the line, and there was a quarryman, a chap for a Shap was killed, and he'd sheltered under railway trucks, and stern had come onto the truck, so he was killed. But that was a real big blast. This is another picture of quarryman at Pink Quarry. H.B. Fleming on left there, and someone you'll ken some of the others. On the right you've got Bob Ratchford, and next name's Tossie Coward. And then you'll have fella standing up laner now was Cliff Buckle. So someone you'll ken some of them. And that Pig Quarry, when it was still operating with all buildings and such like. And that's what it's like today. They've taken everything away. It's shut in 1990s, and all buildings have gone, and they just take portable gear in when they want to take some stone out. And they used to have their own workshops for dealing with granite, and they used diamond saws. This is Jackie Warren working on a diamond saw, and it went for all these good projects like Southampton Docks, Camel-Laird Docks at Birkenhead and London Embankment. And this is Janet Mason's. This is Harry McGinn. They had to work with them safety glasses on even in them days, but nowadays they'd have a lot more protective gear on. They have no masons shops anymore. This is an aerial view what works were like, and it points out where the road and that is. But you can see houses, you can see yards and such like. And this is really, I think, one of my favourite pictures. Menfolk coming yam for granite after a day's work, coming down Main Street. You can nearly hear the clubs on the road as they go on. And this lal lass at back's come to meet her daddy. And this just shows stock they used to have, pipes and flags, and they did flags in a lot of different colours. But this was when it was really, these would be in 1960s, it was really in its heyday. And it changed hands. It was taken over by T.W. Ward's of Sheffield, and then Rio Tinto's Inc., Amy Roadstone, and now it belongs to Cemex. But even concrete operations gone now. And this was a picture of it after they cleared, demolished just about everything, cleared it all out. It's what it's like now. The blue quarry's still working, the fetching stone out there, because they use it to make road stone, and they've got a coating plant they call now, making tarmac with it. But that's all there is up there now. This is Mardle Head. This was afore the flooded, and you can just see there on right in the middle, you can just make out Kirk Tower, and just a hint it's Chapel Hill. But main bit you recognise is that bit with trees on sticking down what they call rig. This is Kirk Mardle. Holy Trinity. Tower was number 28 foot high, and you can see on weather vane on top it was what they call an Agnes Day, a lamb and banner, and that's at Shap now, but it had these good yew trees round it. And it was demolished along with everything else for them to make this new reservoir. There was a lake up there, and there's the weather vane at Shap. That's Shap Kirk, and there's the weather vane on top. There was a lake up there afore. That's dark bit, and then later bits where the flooded till. They raised it 90 foot, and this is dam being built. You can see them got blonding towers gone up. I was told that the dinner time they used to lake and they used to take 14-pound anvil, carry it up one of them towers, go across a 12-foot plank and down to the tower. But they had to stop it before somebody tumbled off. But it's a hollow buttress dam, and somebody, when I was doing a talk about Haweswater Mardle, said it actually moves inside, and he says there was a pole, and if it moved how much, you got yourself out. They used to do tours through it, but you can't get in now. They won't take you through it anymore. And that's like the first picture again, and what you'd see when it's full at bottom. And then sometimes you get a bit drought, and it draws down a little bit, and then you get a good drought like at bottom, and you can see what field was and brig, and because we were on a main road, we always had a poor house, and then that was changed and altered, made into Union Workhouse. And that tower on top had cold water tank for baths, and they had to carry it up in buckets to fill it. And then it turned into the children's home. Well, there was lads and lasses there. And then after the war, Shap Granite bought it for housing, and they put DPs in there, displaced persons that come out of Eastern Europe. They put them in there. But it's a bit out of the village, but it's still housing. And we had a JFS camp. Now, it wasn't run by Carlisle Diocese, but Manchester Diocese. But the guides and Seck-like folk used to come on holidays. And they were up on north end at village, where there's a coal yard now. But I can remember seeing lasses coming from the station carrying their kit bags on the shoulders coming down Shap. And this is 1930s, a view across these fields back of this hall. The hall we're in now is just in middle there, on the edge of the field. That's where we are now. But that big field's what's plain field now. And Lal Croft with cows and sheep in was where the first houses were built after the Second World War. Come on. And this is lurking for a top of what we call Jackie Croft. It's up on the west side and you're lurking down onto the village. It's all full of houses down at the bottom of there, you know. And my house is just at the bottom. And this is Kirk. St Michael's Kirk. There's been a kirk at Shap since 750. And Steenkirk dates from 1120, so it's actually older than Shap Abbey. And it was altered a great lot in 1899, but it's still got a Norman arcade inside it. And that font's made out of Shap granite, and that's where they doped me. And that's a view as you're coming in for a Peereth. It isn't altered a good lot. That big house you can recognise on, but there's not as many telegraph poles and such like. And that's as you're coming in for a Peereth. And this is lurking back up same way, an odd corner there where there's a shop, it's where Chippy is now. And the road just round past it, gas to Crosby Downs, that's where you got to see Ted. Steenbauer is a house just as you turn onto the road to Banton, and we understand that two engineers for the railway lodged there when they were building the railway, but it was Yam at Fell family. And one of them rather liked idea of doing some topiary. I don't know whether it maybe been to Leven's Hall, I don't know. But any road, he did clipped all these things on top of the dyke, and they called it Cock and Hen Dyke. And they started printing postcards with it on and such like. But there's naught to see now. But that is Mr. Fell with his shovel under his arm. And we had Warcorps with Jan across the road, that's where New Balance is now, and with Jan where roughly where Corp is now, New Corp. And mid-town, this is middle of what was called village of Shap, and there's old cottage there, 1669, but that building that's sort of sticking down towards the road, that was called North View, and there used to be a fish and chip shop in the end latterly, but before that it was a coaching inn, and they pulled it down in 1960 and built a fire station. And this is my house. This is where I was born, and it's still me yam. And on that old picture there's me grandmother and me mother and me uncle. My uncle's reading newspaper, and my mother's standing in the middle in a gym slip. My grandmother's with big white pinny on. I was born in that house, my first pictures, with my granddad 108, mother and father, and that's me and old Rattletrap. And you look at that compared to what they've got today to trail the bands about in. And then grandfather used to take me to swim me ducks in cattle trough in Jackie. And that's our houses in there, you know. And then we used to, Auntie Mary was up at Greenhouse, and she used to always keep a lot of poultry, and there I was helping her to feed them. All them trees have gone, and I mean, still a farmhouse, but changed a lot. Now then, you see, you had to start to learn how to do things, jobs around house, you see, bit of housework. And there you see, I was going to do a little bit of baking and giving a hand with washing. And we used to use set pot boiler in wash house in them days, so I don't know, maybe washing some hankies, I don't know. This is called Girls and Infants Skill, and this is a picture taken about 1905, because my uncle's on front row, but you can hardly make any faces out. But it's changed. This is where I started school, and then they had a secondary school here, Art bands for around about, villages round about like Crosby and Bampton and Orton and such like, used to come to Shap secondary school. And it was a good school, because there were all country bands in a country spot, and they got on gaily well. And then they turned it into a magistrate's court, and then it was youth centre, and now it's library. And this is first picture at school. This is my first class in 1953. I should have actually started school after Tatey Picking Week in October 1952. But in them days, you didn't put your bands' names down for school, and when they took me along, they said they hadn't room for me. And so my mother had to take me back yam. And when they took me back after Christmas, I wasn't going to go, because they'd had your chance, and I wasn't going to give them another. I'm on back row, on left-hand end, that's me. And this is last picture they took when it was still Shap Girls and Infants. 1955, this picture. And there you are, it tells you where I am there. Third row, 12th at left. I've got my hair in plaits by then. And then they moved our infants across to what had been lads' school and made it into primary school. And you can see that fancy doer there. That's Jan that was on Old Moot Hall. And it's dated 1688. It's got date on and PLW on it. But it's a gay smart doer. And this is after I'd gone across. Now then, it tells you where I am again. I've still got plaits there. This is to view up these fields behind. It was taken in the field next to here. But we used to get at Flassett and Holsmeaben for folk dancing competitions. And lads used to learn to do that Northumbrian sword dance, a Flamborough sword dance, and they used to lock swords. And there's 3 teams of lads there on top. And then I'm in one of these groups that's dancing. I'm somewhere on the back, but that's one of the dancing team. But it was wet, and we had to have it in Crosby Village Hall, and there was hardly room to dance when everybody would get themselves packed in. And then we used to put some grand concerts on and all. And there I am, singing me heart out on front row, 3 for it left. And that same school, I've got a grandson in there now. My bands went there. And we had a cinema. It was called Gem Cinema. It was this building here. It was a lad for a Shap that had been in Air Force during war, and he'd learned all about wirelesses. So when he come here, he set up this cinema. And the first year I was at school, of course it was coronation year, an art school went to Picture House to see a film at Coronation on a good big screen. Mind you, it was probably a screen not about as big as that, really. But it seemed a big screen, anyway. That would shut in the early 60s, and they retired and moved. And then we had a Methodist chapel. In its houses now, it's been made into flats. The only building in Shap that's built all out of red sandstone. Everything else there's a bit of sandstone, and mainly it's built out of limestone. And there's a Sunday school party. And I was on there, in front row there, not minding my own business, and really like to see what everybody else is doing. You say, being nosy. But on a Sunday, after you went to Sunday school, I used to go for a walk with my father. And first picture we're down on Old Keld Brig with dog. And then on t'other end, I think we must be going to go to cemetery churchyard with some flowers, because I've got a bunch of flowers there. So you had to put your Sunday best on there to go for a walk. And this is that Lal Croft that you saw in that big picture with cows in. These were the first houses they built after Second World War. Croft Avenue. And then the Open Memorial Park, the Open Gates, 1951, Festival of Britain year. And it's still well used, this Memorial Park. We've got odd sports teams and a good bowling club and such like. Now, Coronation, like I say, it was a wet day at Shap and all. If you see the old pictures down in London, it's all gaily wet like, and it was wet here. My mother dressed me up as a crinoline lady, and that frock was made out of crepe paper. Well, you know what crepe paper used to be like when it got wet. So I actually had my raincoat on under there and a pair of wellies. So my clothes wouldn't be all different, red, white and blue underneath, but that's some of them all dressed up. And Shap used to have a show and all. And it would finish afore the Second World War, but it was held up south end of village in a field, and some folks still refer to it as Shawfield. And we used to have other village events. Now this was a rose fete, a special event for coronation of George V in 1911, so 100 years ago. And lad there is my uncle. I've still got a sleeve of that outfit. It's navy blue velvet with hot frogging and everything on it. But rose fetes continued. There used to be a gay good do, and they used to be held in summer when you had like Glasgow holiday makers gone back and Edinburgh Yans coming down the summer. Procession used to stop odd buses with odd holiday makers on. So the fellas used to get on with buckets for collection. They used to do gaily wheel and all. And that's Rose Queen in 1988. That's my daughter. The pictures on the left tell her their own tale. It'll be 1952, and it says, "Where's Stian?" And on to the side it says, "Stian is gone." Now, as you know, they nicked it for a Westminster Abbey Ford coronation, and that's my pram all done up and with tartan and such like, and there was this wagon driver, this Glaswegian wagon driver, got me father as I was coming down. He says, "You should be ashamed of yourself," he says, "letting that wee lassie push that great big steer." And actually, what it was a cardboard box that had been covered in wallpaper paste and chucked in sandpit. So it was light as a feather, actually. And then I was dressed up as an old grandma on one, and then that must be about 1954. It was an Olympic Games, and I'm dressed up for Olympic Games and that. But we had wonderful do's. Now then, can you see Lal Reid Riding Hood there on that top picture? And in front of her, there's a fox. Look, there, with a mob cap on. You know how some bands used to have stuffed dogs on wheels that they used to troll about? Well, my father Nobbert worked at Granite. We didn't ever get a lot of money. And my Uncle Alan, a good hunting fella, and his father-in-law had been a gamekeeper. Well, anyway, they'd got one of these glass cases and they were emptying it. There was a fox in it. See, my grandfather made a plank of wood with some casters on, and they nailed this fox onto it. And I had the collar and lead. And I used to trail about with it. And you used to see folk coming past on the road, and they'd be going, they thought it was a real fox. It ended up on bonfire, I'll have you say, when I was about 8, when it had got moth into it and such like. And there I was dressed as a pearly queen. You see, I went from Scotland to London, you see, and I'm pearly queen on the bottom one. But it was a gay good do when you dressed up, because you used to get half a croon and your tea in a paper bag when you went to Rose Fete. It was quite a good do. And Shap used to have a cricket team. And now this is a typical cricket team. This is when it had local doctor, schoolmaster, policeman and butcher in among other folk. But, you know, typical of a village cricket team where all ranks of community were in. This would be in 1950s. Now, there's some bonny spots round Shap and all. This is a spot called Roscoe, and it's a twin Shap and Banton. And it's Gay Brant gone down, and Gay Brant come and move. And this is Swindle. Now, you can see on left there's Old Kirk and Scale. It was all Yar building. It was Scale at Yar end and Kirk at t'other. And that would be pulled down about 1960. I can remember my father taking me up to see it, but it had near roof on it. But I can remember. And we've got bell in tower at Shap Church. They use it for morning services. It's sort of like middle of week. That's Swindle. Now, they were going to flood Swindle at Yar time. They wanted to flood Swindle as well as Mardle. But in the end, they took water through an aqueduct into Haweswater, and there was a lass I was at school with, her father was killed when they were putting a tunnel through. Now, Hardendale, there was a gay lot of bonny limestone, And of course they've quarried up there and quarried. They're what they called hanging rock. And it was on front at Nab. And you had to sort of loup across that gap to get onto it. But they managed to blast it off when they were on with quarrying, so that's gone now and all. And this is where my father was born. Cragg's Mill, bottom end of Sleddle. And that was pulled down about 1960. And his youngest brother was the last person to live there. But there's an out left there, apart from the bridge, really. That loud tower that's on the side at back, it was a water gauge. And they had Jan on there and Jan on Swindlebeck. And it was to see what water was coming down. And it was to deal with them building dams and like. And of course they did build a dam up Sleddle in End. And that was finished in 1967, and that's taken day they finished work on it. But it's a good long dam, but it doesn't hold a good lot of water back, not like the up Haweswater. But about the same time, they built a new quarry up at Hardendale to take limestone, and that was to deal with Ravenscraig British Steel, and then it got called Chorus, and now it's called Tartar Steel. But they're not quarrying at the moment. They're fetching limestone out at quarry at north end of the village at Hanson, and they're trundling it through Shap in wagons all day, every day through the week, to go out as kiln feed, as they call it. So it's gay busy with these wagons. But we had some good changes. 1970, M6 motorway opened. And suddenly it was like it had snowed. Everything was quiet. Because instead of having traffic jam, night and day, suddenly there was nought coming through. And it was like it was when you got to snow and all traffic had stopped. Stuff's gradually coming back. There is stuff choosing to come on this road instead. But some spots did close down, some spots that depended a lot on transport. And it's generally fairly busy, but I took this here Sunday morning through Crosby Road, and there's not but 2 cars that you can see. But it was fairly early on. I'd taken the dog for a walk. I think it was about 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, so it's not really surprising. And then, of course, all fellas that used to drive our Shap Fell, they had a memorial put up in 1994, and it was commercial museum down in Leyland that would be hinted, that they set up this organisation called Shap Memorial Trust. It's a lump of Shap granite, but it's got slate panels on it. The History Society have taken over trusteeship of that now, but it's right on top of Shap, and just reminds folk of what used to be. And this was a day we all wish had never happened. This was when an RAF Hawk training plane for a layman crashed into some trees at north end of Shap, and it demolished a building and damaged a van. And wreckage was scattered all with main road and all to railway line. And there was a van damaged. Fella in that van had very lucky escape. And both of Derman were killed. And they set up a memorial for them near where it happened. We had 10th anniversary a couple of years back. And then 2000, new millennium, and we put a lovely new window in Shap Church. And it shows scenes for all around the village. Now, it was done by a chap called Adam Goodyear, and he was from Huddersfield. And we had a lot of input into what they put on. They had a lot of meetings and said what folk would like to see on it. And that golden eagle, it started to remind folk of the RAF, because we'd had crashed year before. But really it's to symbolise the golden eagles that were up Riggindale, up above Haweswater. But there's all sorts of quotations from Litany and the Bible. And there in the middle you've got a cross. And it's a living cross. It's got red thorns, and you've got Kidsty piking back, and at the bottom you've got a swaddle sheep. I don't know whether it's a tuppy or a yow, don't ask me. But the year after it was put up, we were struck with foot and mouth. So folk started to look at window as a sign of hope for the future. But it shows all sorts of things around community. You've got in the left one, you've got Kirk, and you've got Googlebystern and Kelt Chapel, and behind it you've got a little bit that's got transport. It's got trains on railway and wagons on motorway, and in the right hand side you've got Dabby. There's some Herdwick sheep in front and a deer, and there's a lime kiln a hint, and then behind you've got quarries, which and three different colours. It's got blue and pink and white. White for limestone and pink and blue that were extracted up at granite. And that was unveiled on Michaelmas Day 2000 by Canon Markham from Moreland. And that's a bonny view of a Shap from the east in May 2009. You've learned something fresh about Shap, because you know that's where the shoe ducks with darning needles and Mo Brackens with a rail bar. And thank you for listening to the Lal Shapite.